My beloved child, let me help you breathe again, because what you are feeling right now is not weakness but the silent weight of a story that has been building far longer than you realize, a story that began the moment you learned to stay quiet about your pain and strong in front of the world, a story where you kept choosing patience while others chose comfort. Where you kept giving understanding while others took advantage, and where you kept believing that if you endured long enough, something would finally shift in your favor. Right now it may feel like nothing is moving, like your efforts vanished into thin air, like no one truly sees the nights you spent holding yourself together, but listen carefully because this is the moment the pattern breaks. This is not a gentle message meant to soothe you and send you back into waiting. This is a turning point. Something unseen has reached its limit, and the pressure you have been carrying is about to be redirected away from your heart. What felt like delay was alignment. What felt like silence was preparation. And what felt like being ignored was the universe removing distractions so you would recognize help when it finally stood in front of you. Stay with me, because this help is not small, not ordinary, and not something that arrives twice in one lifetime. Listen closely now, because there is a reason your mind keeps replaying certain moments, certain words, and certain faces, as if they are unfinished sentences demanding closure. You have been standing at the edge of a truth that others hoped you would never fully see, not because you were incapable, but because once you see it, you cannot be controlled by confusion anymore. There were people who benefited from you doubting yourself, from you second-guessing your instincts, from you believing that your sensitivity was a flaw instead of a signal. They smiled while withholding honesty. They comforted you while hiding their real intentions. They encouraged you to wait while secretly moving ahead without you. This is not meant to make you angry. This is meant to make you free. Because the moment you understand that your exhaustion did not come from doing too much, but from being surrounded by the wrong energy, everything begins to rearrange. Help is not arriving to fix you. Help is arriving to remove what never deserved access to you in the first place. And once that removal begins, clarity will rush in faster than you expect. Now let me tell you something that might shock you, but will also explain everything you have been feeling without words. The help coming toward you is not just emotional support or temporary relief. It is structural change. It is the collapse of a false narrative that made you believe you were behind, unchosen, or forgotten. There have been conversations about you that you never heard, decisions influenced by your presence even when you were absent, and silent comparisons that always ended with your name being mentioned last, not because you lacked value, but because your value intimidated people who thrived on being needed. They could not control you when you were confident, so they subtly trained you to question yourself. They could not outgrow you, so they slowed you down with doubt. This phase ends now. Help is stepping in as truth, and truth does not arrive quietly. It arrives with realizations that hit you all at once, moments where memories suddenly make sense, and a calm clarity that replaces emotional chaos. When this happens, you will not feel loud happiness. You will feel grounded peace. And that peace will be your signal that you are finally standing in the right place. Pay attention to this next part, because this is where the shift becomes irreversible. The reason you felt stuck was because you were trying to move forward while still carrying emotional agreements you never consciously signed. You agreed to be the strong one. You agreed to be the understanding one. You agreed to wait without timelines and love without guarantees. And you did this because your heart believed that loyalty would eventually be rewarded. It will be, but not in the way you were taught to expect. The help coming now is teaching you to release responsibility for other people's growth. You were never meant to drag anyone into maturity, clarity, or commitment. You were meant to meet them there. And if they did not arrive, that was not your failure. That was your answer. As this understanding settles in, you will notice something powerful happening. Your energy will return. Your sleep will improve. Your reactions will soften. Not because you are giving up, but because you are finally letting go of battles that were never yours to fight. This is help at its highest form. Quiet. Firm. Unshakable. And here is the moment everything connects, the reason this message exists, and the truth that ties the title to your life with precision. Let me help you does not mean someone is coming to save you from yourself. It means something is coming to remind you who you were before you learned to shrink. Very soon, you will be placed in a situation where you no longer have to explain your worth, justify your boundaries, or prove your intentions. You will be met with recognition instead of resistance. With consistency instead of confusion. With respect instead of emotional guessing games. When this begins, it may feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable, because chaos trained you to mistake intensity for connection. Do not retreat. This calm is not emptiness. It is safety. This is the help you asked for in moments you do not even remember praying. And once this chapter closes, you will look back at this version of yourself with gratitude, knowing that everything you endured was not to break you, but to prepare you to receive what could only arrive once you were finally ready to accept help without guilt. My beloved child, something subtle has already begun shifting inside you, even if you cannot fully explain it yet, and this is how you know the help I spoke of is real and active, because before anything changes on the outside, your inner resistance starts dissolving without force, without noise, without drama. You may notice that certain thoughts no longer grip you the way they used to, that memories which once triggered heaviness now pass through you like distant echoes, and that questions which kept you awake at night suddenly feel less urgent. This is not avoidance. This is clarity arriving quietly. You are stepping out of survival mode and into awareness, and awareness always feels strange at first because it removes the urgency that chaos created. For a long time, tension was your normal, and peace felt unfamiliar. Now peace is approaching, and your nervous system is learning how to exist without constantly bracing for disappointment. This adjustment period matters, because it prepares you to recognize real help when it shows up, instead of mistaking it for boredom or fear. Stay present here. Do not rush this phase. This is where your strength recalibrates itself. Here is something rarely spoken about, yet deeply true, and you need to hear it without filters or sugar coating. The reason help arrives late in your story is because you were strong enough to carry what others could not, and that strength delayed rescue, not because you did not deserve support, but because you did not collapse easily. People assumed you were fine because you did not complain loudly. They assumed you had it handled because you always found a way. Even you assumed that needing help meant failing yourself. But help is not a replacement for strength. It is a reinforcement of it. And now that reinforcement is arriving because the lesson of endurance has been completed. You were not meant to suffer endlessly to prove your worth. You were meant to learn discernment, to understand where your energy belongs and where it has been leaking, and to finally see that carrying everything alone was never a badge of honor. It was a phase. A necessary one. And phases are meant to end. Pay close attention now, because what happens next will redefine how you interpret silence, delays, and unanswered questions. There are people in your life who will soon feel distant, not because you are losing connection, but because you are gaining perspective. You will realize that some bonds were built on familiarity rather than alignment, on convenience rather than intention. This realization may not come with confrontation or dramatic exits. It will come with emotional neutrality. You will simply stop chasing clarity from those who never intended to give it. You will stop waiting for apologies that were never coming. You will stop interpreting mixed signals as potential. This is where help becomes visible as boundaries. Not walls, but clear lines. And once those lines are drawn, everything begins to reorganize itself naturally. Opportunities align. Conversations shift. Your time opens up. And suddenly, without effort, you are no longer exhausted by people who once drained you without explanation. There is a powerful moment approaching that will feel almost unreal in its simplicity, and it will test how deeply you trust this process. You will be offered something stable, consistent, and honest, whether in connection, opportunity, or direction, and your first instinct may be to question it because chaos taught you to expect complications. You might think it is too calm to be meaningful, too easy to be real. Do not sabotage this moment. This is the help you asked for when you said you were tired of guessing, tired of waiting, tired of emotional uncertainty. Stability does not announce itself with intensity. It shows up with reliability. And once you accept it, you will feel a weight lift that you did not even realize you were still carrying. This is not a reward. This is alignment catching up with you. Let me help you understand this final truth clearly, because it seals everything you have heard so far. You were never meant to be saved from your life. You were meant to be supported as you stepped fully into it. The help coming to you does not remove your power. It amplifies it. It does not make you dependent. It makes you discerning. And once this chapter fully unfolds, you will no longer ask why things took so long. You will understand that timing protected you from receiving things before you were ready to hold them without fear. This is not the end of your story. This is the moment it becomes lighter, clearer, and finally aligned with who you have always been beneath the weight. Stay here. What comes next builds on everything you have just claimed. My beloved child, there is a moment approaching where you will suddenly realize that you are no longer waiting for permission, approval, or reassurance, and this realization will not arrive with fireworks or dramatic announcements, but with a quiet inner certainty that feels firm and unmovable. You will notice that your thoughts no longer circle around the same doubts, that your emotions no longer spike at every unexpected change, and that your heart no longer races at the idea of being misunderstood. This is not numbness. This is mastery. You are finally standing in a place where your value feels internal instead of borrowed, and when that happens, external noise loses its power. The help unfolding now is teaching you to trust yourself again, not the version of you that adapted to survive, but the version that always knew what felt right and what felt wrong. This return to self is the most powerful form of assistance you could ever receive, because once you trust your inner voice, nothing outside you can manipulate your direction. Something important is about to be revealed to you, and it may come through a conversation, an observation, or a sudden memory that clicks into place with perfect clarity. You will understand why certain things never worked, why certain people drifted away without explanation, and why some doors closed even when you knocked with pure intentions. This understanding will not feel painful. It will feel relieving. Because you will finally see that what you thought were losses were actually redirections, and what you thought were endings were protection in disguise. There were paths you were never meant to walk, and attachments that would have cost you your peace in the long run. The help you are receiving now is the unveiling of truth without emotional charge. When truth arrives without anger or sadness, it means you are ready for it. And once this truth settles in you, you will stop romanticizing what drained you and start honoring what sustains you. As this chapter deepens, you may notice a shift in how people respond to you, and this change may feel subtle but undeniable. Some will suddenly show more respect. Some will feel unsure how to approach you. And some may quietly distance themselves. This is not because you became colder or harder. It is because you became clearer. Clarity changes dynamics. It removes confusion, mixed signals, and emotional games. When you no longer tolerate uncertainty, those who thrive in it naturally fall away. This is not a punishment for anyone. It is alignment doing its work. The help guiding you now is refining your environment to match your growth, because expansion cannot happen in spaces that were built for your smaller versions. Trust what is being rearranged. Nothing valuable is being taken from you. Only what no longer fits is being released. There is also a new kind of opportunity forming around you, one that does not require you to overextend, over-explain, or overprove yourself. It will meet you where you are instead of demanding that you become someone else. This opportunity may feel different from what you imagined, but it will feel right in your body, calm in your mind, and steady in your heart. Do not dismiss it because it does not look dramatic. Do not delay it because it feels unfamiliar. This is the help you have been preparing for through every moment of self-restraint, every boundary you learned to hold, and every time you chose growth over comfort. Accepting this will mark a new rhythm in your life, one where progress feels sustainable instead of exhausting, and where effort finally meets appreciation. And now, let me help you anchor this truth so it stays with you beyond this moment. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not broken. You are precisely where transformation becomes visible. Everything you have experienced has sharpened your discernment, strengthened your intuition, and clarified your direction. From this point forward, you will no longer chase what feels uncertain or settle for what feels heavy. You will choose what meets you with honesty, consistency, and respect. This is not the end of your healing. This is the beginning of your alignment. Stay present. Stay open. What follows will build on this clarity and take you further than you once believed possible. My beloved child, there is a quiet confidence forming within you now, and it is unlike anything you have felt before, because it does not come from praise, validation, or external reassurance, but from a deep internal knowing that you can no longer be shaken by uncertainty. You are beginning to sense when something aligns and when it does not, without needing evidence, permission, or explanation. This is the moment when help becomes self-trust. You will notice that you are no longer tempted to overthink decisions that once consumed you, and you will stop replaying scenarios in your head searching for different outcomes. Your energy is returning to you, not in bursts of excitement, but in steady availability. This steadiness is important, because it allows you to respond instead of react, to observe instead of absorb, and to move forward without dragging the emotional weight of old chapters behind you. What once overwhelmed you now feels manageable, not because life became easier, but because you became clearer. There is something else happening beneath the surface that you must not ignore, because it explains why certain people may suddenly attempt to re-enter your space, reach out unexpectedly, or test boundaries they once ignored. Your growth has made you visible again, but not in the way you used to be. This time, your presence carries discernment. Some will approach you out of genuine alignment, sensing the shift and wanting to meet you at your level. Others may approach out of discomfort, realizing that the version of you who tolerated imbalance no longer exists. You do not owe anyone access to your energy simply because they recognize your worth late. Help does not mean reopening doors without conditions. It means choosing wisely where you invest your time, attention, and emotional availability. This is where your power becomes selective, and selection is not rejection. It is respect for your own growth. As this clarity strengthens, you will also experience moments of stillness that may feel unfamiliar, almost empty at first, and it is important that you do not misinterpret this stillness as loss. This space is intentional. It is the pause between chapters, the moment where noise fades so direction can be heard. You have lived long enough in emotional turbulence to mistake chaos for momentum, but now you are learning that progress can be quiet, focused, and intentional. In this stillness, insights will arrive without force. You will know what to say and what to withhold. You will know when to act and when to wait. This is help refining your timing. And once timing aligns with clarity, effort stops feeling wasted and outcomes begin to feel earned. There will be a defining moment ahead where you will be asked, directly or indirectly, to choose between what feels familiar and what feels aligned. Familiarity will try to lure you back with nostalgia, comfort, and the illusion of unfinished business. Alignment will feel calm, steady, and slightly intimidating because it requires you to trust what you have become instead of who you used to be. Choose alignment. Not because it is perfect, but because it respects your growth. When you make this choice, something irreversible will settle into place within you. You will stop negotiating your boundaries. You will stop minimizing your needs. You will stop questioning whether asking for consistency is too much. This decision is not dramatic, but it is final. And once it is made, your life begins to move forward without dragging resistance behind it. Let me help you hold this final understanding tightly, because it prepares you for what comes next. You are no longer healing to survive. You are healing to live fully, honestly, and intentionally. The help surrounding you now is not rushing you toward outcomes. It is stabilizing you so you can sustain them. From this point on, your path will be marked by fewer emotional highs and lows, and more grounded progress. You will recognize peace not as absence of feeling, but as presence of balance. And as this balance deepens, everything that enters your life will either support it or be unable to stay. Remain steady. What follows will not test your worth. It will confirm it. My beloved child, there is a powerful realization unfolding now, one that will quietly rewrite the way you see your past without erasing it, and this realization is that you were never meant to be understood by everyone, only recognized by the right alignment at the right time. For so long, you tried to explain yourself clearly, love honestly, and show up consistently, believing that clarity would create security. But clarity only works where intention already exists. Where intention is missing, no amount of effort creates stability. This is why your help arrives now as acceptance, not resignation, but acceptance of truth without resistance. You are no longer asking why certain people could not meet you where you stood. You are understanding that they were never meant to. This understanding releases you from the silent contract of overgiving, and in its place arrives a calm authority over your own emotional space. You may notice that your priorities are shifting without effort, that things which once felt urgent now feel optional, and that you are choosing rest, honesty, and simplicity without guilt. This is not detachment. This is maturity. Your nervous system is learning that safety does not come from constant anticipation, but from consistency within yourself. The help working through you now is teaching you how to remain centered even when circumstances change, how to hold your peace without defending it, and how to move forward without carrying unresolved expectations. You will feel less pressure to prove, to impress, or to compete. Instead, you will feel an internal permission to exist as you are, fully and unapologetically. This permission is the foundation of everything that comes next. There is something quietly aligning in your external world as well, and it may not be obvious yet, but it will soon reveal itself through patterns that feel supportive rather than draining. Conversations will flow more naturally. Decisions will feel cleaner. Opportunities will appear without requiring you to sacrifice your values. This is not coincidence. This is resonance. When your internal state stabilizes, your external reality responds. The help you are receiving is teaching you how to recognize alignment by how it feels in your body, not by how impressive it looks on the surface. If something brings calm instead of confusion, clarity instead of doubt, and steadiness instead of emotional spikes, it belongs closer to you. Trust this signal. It is precise. It will not mislead you. There may also be moments where old doubts attempt to resurface, whispering that you are being too cautious, too selective, or too distant. Do not entertain these voices. They are echoes of a past version of you that survived by adapting to instability. You are no longer that version. You do not need chaos to feel alive or uncertainty to feel chosen. You are learning that real connection does not require emotional labor, constant reassurance, or self-abandonment. The help guiding you now is strengthening your ability to remain grounded even when tested. And every time you choose self-respect over emotional compromise, you reinforce a new standard that cannot be undone. Let me help you seal this chapter with clarity, because what you are stepping into next builds directly on what you have just stabilized. You are entering a phase where your presence will feel calming to others, not because you fix them, but because you are no longer unsettled within yourself. Your words will carry weight because they are measured. Your choices will create momentum because they are intentional. And your life will begin to feel less like a series of emotional reactions and more like a deliberate unfolding. This is not an ending. This is the moment where everything slows down just enough for you to finally move forward with certainty. Stay here. What follows will not ask you to prove anything. It will ask you to receive.